You have a fan club. Finn Wittrock, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Congratulations on a beautiful movie, beautiful performances. We have a lot of people here from the industry, obviously, and so I always actually like to start by asking, what was your first job in this business? You know, the first time you thought you could call yourself an actor or call yourself a writer or a filmmaker?
Today.
This moment right here. Finn, for you?
Oh, sorry, it's hard. We would do lots of press today, and it's like we talk about this movie very theoretically, having watched it months ago, but now having just watched it again, it's hard to talk about it in an objective way. It's very impactful. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good.
I think everyone in the audience is feeling that way.
Yeah,
You're not
I know.
in it.
Yeah,
You were actually in it.
when did I first call myself an actor? Is that the question? I was on stage when I was like 7, 8 years old, and I had 2 lines in a play by Bertolt Brecht, and I said, "I'm hungry, I'm thirsty too." Those were my lines, and I was like a homeless child in The Good Woman of Szechuan, in a college production that my father was directing.
You know, most people start with like The Wizard of Oz. You're doing Brecht at 7.
Yeah, that's when I knew. Yeah, I did Brecht at 7. That's when I knew. Yeah, my dad was an actor and a teacher of the Linklater voice technique, and he worked in lots of theater spaces and would have me be like page boys and messenger children and lots of Shakespeare plays and things. And so, yeah, I caught the bug pretty young.
Wow. So was it a foregone conclusion you'd be an actor, or did they think you?
I think my dad hoped that I would be something more sane. Like, he was like, being a doctor is a great way to go. But it was too late by then. Yeah.
Amanda, what about for you? What do you sort of consider your first job?
My first real job was, I failed it miserably. So I guess I think I know. I was an actor when I fell in love with it. I think I realized I wanted to do it for the rest of my life when I was on All My Children, he was also
All My
on that
Children,
show.
alumni.
I mean, listen, you learn a lot.
Oh, yeah. You, absolutely. Boot camp.
It really is a lot of lines.
You never crossed on All My Children, did you?
No.
You seem.
I would have remembered.
No, Joni never met what's-its-face.
Damon. Yeah.
Damon.
No, Damon was after her time.
Could have dated, they didn't.
Yeah, they would have been good.
Amy, what about for you? I mean, you do so much. You're a novelist, you write, you direct. Where did it all begin? Use your mic.
When I was when I was little, I wanted to be a writer. And then I didn't really start writing again until I was in my 20s. Yeah.
Was there a specific story or something that drew you back?
No, I had very bad postpartum depression, and so I think as part of it, and just basically depression, and so I think at a certain point I started to write as a place to put the sadness. It's a very healthy way to to dump it. I think in retrospect, since I read this book like 20 years ago, I was writing, through the fear of what if I hadn't gotten the help that I needed, that I did. Now I have a almost 6-year-old and a 21-year-old.
Oh, wait, let's embarrass them. Where are they? Everyone point. Well, that actually brings me to A Mouthful of Air. You originally wrote as a novel. In 2003, I believe it was published. Did you ever imagine it as a film, or did you, think it would just, I don't want to say just live as a novel, because that's one of the hardest things you can do, but when did you start thinking about it as a movie?
Well, it was out of print. It had come out on an independent press, and the man who owned the press had passed away, and it was out of print. And one day I was driving home from picking my kids up or dropping them off at school on the West Side Highway, and I must have been listening to Doctor's Radio, and some woman called in, and she was crying, and I remember like an ironing board, she must have been ironing and crying and talking about how scared she was, how she was scared she was going to fail her children, she was a terrible mother, and they said, well, you can call, this is called postpartum depression, you can ask, people for help. And she said, oh no, I can't. Like, I speak to your husband, I can't tell him, speak to your doctor, I couldn't tell your mother, no, that would be, terrible. And so, I just thought, oh, I thought everybody knew about this now. Maybe not, maybe everybody doesn't know about it. And then I had the gall to think it could be a movie with a specific 3-act structure. But, so that's what happened. I thought, maybe there was a way people watch movies, more than they read books, and maybe there was a way that I could reach that woman, wherever she was calling from.
Absolutely.
And then getting Amanda to agree to do it, then I knew we had a real chance. And, sorry. And now we're going to open up in like 820 theaters, and that's 820 communities that people can talk about how scary it is to be a mom. Because even if you don't have depression, everyone, if you give birth to a child, it's very scary. Mm-hmm. You're responsible for making sure they're okay, not fucking them up.
So Amanda, sure. Amanda, how did the script or the project find its way to you, and what interested you in signing on not only to play Julie, but as an executive producer?
Well, Amy and I met a long time ago.
Time to use that theater training.
We met, and it was a year and a half before we shot it. Through my husband, because he had done her last movie that she had written, and this story, I don't know. The first time you meet Amy, you can tell, for those of you who don't know her, that she's like dripping with compassion and empathy, and she really is the most generous person on the planet. Yeah. It's why, who wouldn't want to tell her story, or a story from her perspective, from her heart, because it's as pure as it gets. And when we talked about the script, it was like the first or second draft, and we met, and I wanted to collaborate. We share similar experiences in terms of like mental illness and mental health, and trying, really working hard to overcome our own struggles, and as parents, the fears around that, and we just share a lot of things, and the subject matter is so important and still very stigmatized, even though the story takes place in the 90s. I think that's why it takes place in the 90s, to also show the contrast. There should be support, maternal mental health, and there just isn't. Like, we completely are just forgotten in the healthcare industry still. And I don't know, I just thought, like, Julie specifically, I saw so much of Amy and Julie, I saw so much of myself and Julie. I saw so much that we needed to know about, everybody as a society, not just mothers. And I thought it was going to be the most compassionate, empathetic, pure way to tell the story through this woman that we all know. We all know a Julie. And I feel like the three things that women need, especially women suffering from mental illness, depression, anxiety, and becoming mothers, and then suffering from postpartum depression, is empathy, compassion, and love. They need that, and I think that those are the things that you can provide for them through this story. And then that's, of course, why I wanted to be a part of that. So, like, I wanted to help put it out there. And I totally think we did. It's not easy. It wasn't easy to make. Certainly nobody wanted to help us make it because they were scared of it. But that's the whole effing reason. People still aren't, like, they don't feel like they can talk about it because it's scary and they don't want to be judged. But you didn't fear any of that. You were like, put it out there in the book, in the movie. We didn't shy away from that much. There was a few things, but really, you see what, I think you're up there. Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, it's not the 1990s anymore, but
Right.
it is still taboo.
It's
I feel. Yeah.
and not only that, where is the help? You have to either have money or time, and most people don't have that, especially when they've taken a baby, a 7-pound baby home from the hospital, and you're supposed to feed it and keep it alive. And anybody who's not suffering from a mental illness, or it's just, I mean, it's so traumatic to give birth. And so as soon as we go home, it all goes away. We get a $20,000 hospital bill and nothing. So for the single mothers out there, I
Oh, I can't even imagine.
I'm trying to take away every obstacle from Julie. Like she has a husband who loves her. She has great medical care, and she understands that this is an illness no different than if you have asthma. And I think so much has changed since I wrote the book. I mean, when I wrote the book and I wrote that last scene, I remember my fingers jumping off the keyboard because I was like, wait, can a mother even hurt her own child? And then that night when my kids went to bed, I remember there was no Google, there was Ask Jeeves. Can a mother hurt her child? And this rudimentary website came on, and a mother wrote a letter to her daughter who had killed herself, and that was the first time I ever saw the words postpartum depression. And I was like, oh, that's the thing. And we talk about how bad the internet is and social media, but a year ago, my daughter sent me this video that this woman made, Bird's Papaya. She was pregnant, and she was talking about her perinatal depression. And I thought, and she said, this will mean, you'll like this. This will mean something to you. This woman has depression while she's pregnant. And I thought, well, things are getting better. There's more access to be able, places where you can talk about it. And like somehow on the algorithm, my 21-year-old daughter got a depressed pregnant person, but at college. But that we could share that and talk about that. I think things are much better, but there still are so many women who feel ashamed and alone, and like everybody else in their place is smiling and happy and doing a much better job than they are.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other people in their playground group who are petrified.
Right. Finn, for you, how did this project find its way to you, and what interested you in playing this character who I do love that you show a supportive husband, and like you said, she in some ways has everything going for her, but it's still such a horrible, horrible battle. What was sort of your impression when you read the script?
I think there was a big difference, if I'm not wrong, between the novel that you wrote and the screenplay that you wrote like 20 years later. In that, I think that the novel, he was a little more self-involved. He was a little more. He wasn't a great husband. He wasn't an asshole, but he was like. He was more difficult. And I think in those years, like the script evolved to make Ethan like a truly good husband and a really loving partner and someone who wants to be there, which actually makes the story more complicated and deeper and richer. Like you can't draw a straight line between what Julie's going through and some thing in her life that's the reason, like her husband doesn't care about her, or she doesn't have a good career, or she's not taken care of. It doesn't, like, all she has all those things, and still the illness pervades. So I was drawn to how complicated it was, and how impossible it was to oversimplify it. I first met Amy. I was sent the script and then was told the director wants to meet with you, and I met Amy Koppelman at this wine bar in Los Feliz called Bar Stella, and she had a little tiny suitcase next to her, and and we had a nice glass of wine and talked about the script and how much I liked it and how excited I was. Like, I would love to do it. And then she asked me how to get to LAX, and I realized that she had literally flown in from New York City to sit with me and have a meeting, and then was going to fly back home.
Wow.
I think in the same day, if I'm not mistaken. Like, this is the kind of dedication and thoroughness that you're talking about in terms of this director. She was like hand painting some of the illustrations that all of the illustrations that Amanda's character goes through. Like, she is so deeply thorough in every nuance of this story, and it is I don't want to say it is you, but it has your fingerprints in every frame of it, and it's really pretty remarkable.
She didn't just fly in, she drove to Los Feliz.
Yeah, the east side.
That's huge. That's more impressive than the flight.
I don't know. Too north.
I really wanted to tell a story about somebody who saw all the beauty in the world and loved her family and still thought that they were better off with.
Maybe raise the mic, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thought that the best thing she could do for them was, for them to live in the world without her.
Yeah.
And watching it tonight, I was like, oh geez, this was the first time, by the way, we watched it with people. I've never seen it in a movie. And Mike Para, who's our producer, I have to point him out because but because I get nervous and get lost in my thoughts, what I was going to say a couple answers ago was that our goal was that every mother should be able to go to the park and enjoy being able to play with her child on a swing and not have that gauzy feeling that you feel from depression or the fear that the baby's going to fall out of the basket or the things are going to break or the man over there was really at the park just to steal your child. And, if we were at the park and we were having a hard time breathing, we would whip out our inhaler as a mother, like take it and never think twice about it. We would never think that people thought, oh, we're a bad mom because we take an inhaler. But we still think, that this is a good and bad mom, a weak and strong mom, and so there's so much shame still associated with depression. I mean, I'm so crazy on the way here, I asked my husband if I had postpartum depression. Because your mind, plays tricks. You want to pretend that it didn't have, And he said, yes, you're a lunatic. But no, I still, part of me still thinks, oh, you were just weak. Or you were just not strong enough. But it was good because I think it helped. And I got to be a happy mom. And, my kids watch my kids grow up. And with Julie, I've just been this so much. That's what we tried to show at the end of the movie. I see your daughter, great, she left this, kids' book, suicide note type of situation with, telling her kids to keep working, to keep believing and to keep having hope. But she didn't allow that for herself. And she missed all of it. She missed her children's lives, and then, she missed the birth of her grandchild, which I personally am waiting for. I basically, I need something to do for the next 10 years.
You, in addition to the actors here, you have assembled this amazing cast. I mean, Amy Irving and Paul Giamatti, and I'm guessing nobody did it for the money.
No, everybody worked for. Everybody was paid, scale or whatever and then everybody put the money back in.
Wow.
Yeah, we were very lucky because Maven Pictures raised $2.5 $3 million to make this movie, which just sounds like so much money, and is so much money, except to make a movie in New York, it's not a lot of money, so everybody just did what they could. Lent furniture, books, toys.
Amanda and Finn, I'm curious because you two really feel like a married couple in this movie, and that means for all the good and bad that entails. And it's always interesting to me when you put two actors together and say, pretend you've been married for 10 years. How did you sort of go about building that chemistry and that intimacy? Did you know each other before?
No. That's a nice thing to say.
I'm just gonna speak loud. You're very respectful, and you're very talented, and your game collaborative. It was just a joy to work with you, and I feel like we just, if you just get along with somebody, you can make anything happen if you're actors, right?
Yeah. Likewise. All those things you said.
That's a description of it. I feel like it. What did you see it? You really feel it.
Well, they do have fun together. I think we had fun together, and we did. Yeah, but I think also Julie and Ethan, like, they do have a nice thing going, and that's what's so sad. They are a team, and we had both had young kids at the time, and I think we bonded over that a little bit, and we wanted to have a good time, and I think that's part of what I love about the film in general is, like, it's not trying to wallow in darkness. There's light and there's animation and there's color, and these people want to enjoy the good stuff they've got going, and this thing keeps kind of dropping them down into the pit. But I think it was actually pretty easy to have fun with Amanda. She's actually a pretty fun person.
There's all these takes where she's lying like this and looks like she's dying in her death, and then all of a sudden you see her go like, "Ah!" A lot of fun because there are two options. Like, you could either have a lot of fun or crawl into a ball and stay there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, we knew the seriousness of this subject, and we knew what the message underneath it. It was, to help people, like, it really to put it out into the world and make an impact change. And you've got to offset it with hijinks and ridiculousness, which we're all able to do. And we were a good team.
You also have kids on set, which keep you honest.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I don't know how many kids you saw up on the screen, but there were more than you thought.
Yeah, there's twins. Everyone's a twin.
Everybody's being swapped out.
Yeah. They only have like 2 hours to work. So.
Wow.
So on this big screen, I could see, that's different than that.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's fine. You're not looking. We're
Right.
looking.
I remember thinking if that's what people were paying attention to, then we were dead.
Yeah.
We weren't paying attention.
Definitely.
Julie was not a children's writer in the novel. That was all Amanda. Amanda wanted her to have a career.
I didn't know that.
Amanda really rewrote the whole script with me, every scene. We really got to do it together. So I texted her on the way here, and I was like, and then COVID happened, and I said, I can't believe it. We did it. We're here, and this happened. And so,
And you're watching it with an audience.
Thanks, if you can hear. Thanks for being here and giving us this experience of sharing
Seriously.
And
to the world.
Please spread the word because it opens in theaters in 2 weeks, October 29th. Oh, it's right there. Look at that. October 29th. And obviously there's a lot of things out there to see, but I feel like this is really important and also entertaining. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.